Hello everyone, welcome to a building tutorial. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to create a beautiful windmill that should be perfect for any farm world that you may desire. It's medieval inspired, but it definitely has a few different twists to it to allow it to be a unique addition to your worlds. Let's get started. To begin, I've laid out some of the very basic blocks that we're going to be using. Some of the wood types, some of the wall blocks, and some of the foundation. Let's start over here with this foundation block so we can get the main bulk of the windmill marked in. We're going to be creating a circle with this. So let's start maybe about here and start creating a circle. The corners are going to be 3 blocks each just to give it a little unique corner. I like doing this sort of shape and I think it gives it a good flair. And there you have it. That is going to be our circle. Now, once you have this pattern copied down, all you have to do is build them up so it is 3 tall. Now that that's done, we're going to grab some of our spruce wood and more basic foundational blocks. And this time we're just going to go around this entire edge and kind of surround it with a nice spruce border. This is going to really help the transition from this cobble foundation up into a more structured area for a windmill and a place for the farmer to actually live. Now, every place where we have one of these stairs in the corner, I'm just going to place a trapdoor to kind of extend this wooden area and give it a little bit of variation. It'll look a lot better from the side because, if you remember, this is going to be our ground level. So when we're walking up to the windmill, we can easily see this sort of little transition, whereas stuff that's way up at the top would be a little less noticeable from down here. So let's try to focus that as we go forward. To make the next layer easier to visualize, I'm going to first mark it out in some granite. You might want to do this in dirt if you're in survival mode, or just whatever you want for the flooring block to be would also work. Now let's start building it up. So in each of these corners, we're going to take our spruce stripped log, and we're just going to build it up. Let's see how tall I want that. I think I'd like that to be about 5 blocks tall, and we're going to do that on every corner. And now we're going to take our granite and build that up right to match it. If you're not a big fan of granite like I am here, there are so many different blocks that would work. Even continuing another gray, like maybe polished andesite or a stone brick, or even acacia would work really good in this scenario if you wanted it. I actually really think the acacia would look awesome. Now that that's in place, let's go all the way around this edge and place our fences. We'll have to go back and delete some of this fence later, but we won't worry about it for now. Having it here will really help us to figure out our main structure. The next layer is going to be very, very similar. We're going to be keeping with this trend of breaking up the layers with a layer of spruce. So on this layer, all we're going to do is grab our spruce and literally just make a ring of it all the way around. And then one more on top of that. Then we're going to go ahead and delete the spruce in the corners here and build up our main structure. This is gonna be hard to figure out the height. You're gonna wanna kind of eyeball this and how you want it proportioned for your world. I think I'd like it to be a couple blocks higher than that. If you're wondering about the height that I decided to go, this is 10 blocks tall, and I think that's going to do the trick for us. Now we need our wall block, which for me is going to be this mushroom block. If you don't know how to get the mushroom in survival, all you're going to need is a silk axe, and you can break down those mushrooms that either grow with bone meal or that you find on a mushroom island, or maybe in the dark oak forest, one of my favorite biomes. That looks about right, I think. The only thing I'm noticing is this transition is not quite big enough, so I'm going to go in with a stair and do an upside down one, and then a right side up one right in each of these corners to just thicken that transition and make it a little bit fancier. Next up, the actual roof. This is going to be fairly simple. I'm just going to do a pretty normal kind of barn style roof up here. So placing our stairs all the way along the edge just as we normally do, and doing an upside down one right where it overhangs on each end. Once we have that in place, we're going to then grab our full spruce block and place that on top of that upside down stair on every side. Then going in with just stairs, we're just going to very, very simply stagger that up. When we get to the meeting point, we're going to do an upside down and a right side up. And that, my friends, is going to be a lovely farm windmill roof shape. We're just going to connect these two ends together now with a slab. We can also drag the wall all the way up just to finish off that look. Now we need to decide on our roof color. And this is where it gets really customizable because this is a very neutral palette. You can go with whatever roof block you want. One of my favorites, for example, is the nether bricks, and I think that's what I'm going to be going with here. It provides a nice dark contrasting block, and in my opinion, it looks great with this palette because of the purple tones. Another great option is the dark prismarine, and the kelp block doesn't look half bad either in my opinion. We're just going to finish off the ends of this roof with that pretty normal staggered slab look just to give a little extra pop of detail, and then we can get to the most important part, the actual windmill, because at the moment this is just a weirdly shaped tower. So let's get on that. I'm going to grab some oak wood for this just to make it look a little bit different, and I actually don't want the full block. I would love to have this regular oak log that has the actual end on it. I'm going to pick a spot just below where this roof kind of comes across and ends. Right about there. A little bit closer to center. Then I'm going to come out 4 blocks and build out by 3 on each side. Then I'm going to extend that center one by 1 more. And this can sometimes be the tricky part. I would like to have these curves, so you need to figure out which direction each one curves. This one over here is going to curve upwards, which means this one over here needs to curve down. Now you need to imagine what this would look like if it turned up here, which would be something like this. And down on the bottom, we're just gonna do the exact opposite. Just like so. At this point, if you're not following this tutorial block by block, you need to figure out if this kind of propeller thing is going to be the correct size for your windmill. Make sure it's not going to turn and hit anything, and make sure it's not going to dig into the ground, it's not weirdly big and looks like it's going to topple over. Make sure everything is proportioned appropriately. Now we can go ahead and add the rest of the details. For this, I'm going to actually be grabbing my oak trap door and some dirt to help me build it. I'm going to be figuring out my shape on this one here because it's the easiest. I'm going to line each of these sort of branches with some trapdoors. Then I'm going to add 2 more, 1 out from the center, and then a layer right to the end to kind of bulk that up. And then right on the end here, I'm going to do a dirt block and 1 more trapdoor. There. That looks good. Now I just need to repeat this on the other blades. This is what the dirt's going to be for because it's going to help a lot more with visualizing it. So we're going to build the dirt all the way up and 1 over, like so, and then just 1 out from that center, and then 4, just like so. Let's do that again on the underside. So just tracing it all the way along, 1 out, and then 4. The pattern gets really easy to repeat after a while. There we have it. Once you have your dirt kind of scaffold marked in, all you're going to do is line these dirt blocks completely with trapdoors and open them all. Once you have them all in place, all you've got to do is go back behind here and destroy the dirt. There we go. Now all it needs is a button to finish it off. That's looking a lot more like a proper windmill. Now it's time for the fun part. We get to add lots of details, and the first thing this is missing is a way to get into it. And also, there's not really any workspace right now. There's no sort of shed attached to it, and adding these little additions is what's going to really set this apart from all of the other windmills out there. So let's get to work on that. This is why I picked out the brown mushroom block as well. It's very neutral, just like the white one, but it's going to give us a difference in color between the other 2 wall blocks that we've used, just to differentiate things a little bit more. We're going to come along to the right side of this windmill, or you could also do the left. It honestly doesn't matter which side. We're going to make a diagonal structure. I'm just going to delete a few of these fences to make it easier, and when I'm doing these, I usually mark myself a diagonal first. So just give yourself a nice straight line to work along, and that way you can kind of bounce your pillars off of that. And then from your line, 1 block out from it on each side, you're going to build that up by about 4 for now. And then you're going to skip 3, and you're going to build it up by 4 again. So you still have this very standard space of 3 in between. And where we have these spaces, we're going to just connect those together by some note blocks. I've chosen these blocks because they add a really good foundational color, and they match really well with both the granite with the pinks in it and also this brown mushroom. They would also go wonderfully with jungle wood if you wanted to add that in there. I think we'll go about 1 more block of 3 right about here. And this should be long enough for my little kind of farmhouse area off the side of this windmill. Yeah, that works well. Alright, so now I can go ahead and delete this interior line that I had. And we can build up all these walls. So just right on top of these note blocks, I'm going to build them up just 3 blocks tall. Once you have this established, you can kind of delete some of the trim that we had originally from the inside here. This might make it a little easier later on. And also you want to finish up this connection by bringing it right up to the granite on either side. Once we have that in place, we can start on the roof. This is sometimes what people tend to struggle with these diagonal buildings. We're just going to put a line of spruce on each side, all the way across. Then on this end over here is where it starts to get a little bit tricky. On the inside, we're going to build it up with 2 slabs. And then we're going to come out from that and do 2 slabs again. And then 2 more right as a peak right there. And I think that's going to work wonders for us. We can tuck a little window there if we want it, or even a doorway if this is where you would like to enter. Then we're going to grab our block of choice for our roof and just go along and fill that completely in with slabs. Pretty much just like with any normal roof. Of course, right at the peak here, I will be dragging this across as some spruce. And we'll add some details to that a little bit later on. There we have it. Now there are a lot of different ways to dress up a building like this. First of all, we can knock in some simple little windows, and that'll definitely help massively. I would also love to grab some brick and make a little chimney for ourselves, maybe kind of over here in this slightly duller area. I think it might benefit from having a fireplace on the interior anyways, and all we need to do for this is grab a campfire and of course our spruce trapdoors and lay that right on top. I'm sure you guys have seen this design before. There we go, a cute little chimney. Okay, but I'm not done here, because now we have this kind of weird transition, right? We have a really low kind of house attached to this really tall windmill. We need something in between, so we're going to add yet another section. I love doing sections like this because you can add on or take away as many as you want, and it's easy to get to a point where you'll be able to stop rather than just trying to build it up all at once and getting kind of flustered halfway through. If I was playing in survival mode right now, I could stop here and live in this windmill for a while and add on the next section when I'm ready for it. Alright, so let's figure out where this needs to go. I'm going to bounce off of these 2 pillars that I already have here, and I'm going to go out probably about 3. So 1, 2, 3, right at the end of this area here. Now, here's an important part. You don't want to connect your roof right here, because then it would look like these 2 kind of flowed together a little weird. You want to either go 1 below this transition or 1 above it. I'm going to choose to go 1 above with my particular structure. And this works out well for me because this is going to connect this pillar all the way up, which is going to make the building flow a lot better. Now I'm going to mark in my roof really quickly. The same as we did up top, I'm just dragging my spruce stairs all the way across from these pillars, overhanging by just 1 on each side. When I get to this pillar over here, I'm going to delete the stair and transition it to a slab so that it looks less heavy right here where this connection is. Then I'm going to build up my roof. With this, I'm just going to very simply staircase it up. No fancy transitions here like we did at the top. I want to keep this very basic, but we're going to connect it the same right there and again with some slabs across. Now I can add in my nether bricks for my roof block. If you wanted, you could also use some different colors for the roofs. I mean, if you were going with a green theme, you could do kelp up there, and then some dark green terracotta, and then maybe some light green terracotta or some melons, making a gradient within the buildings. I think that would be really fun, but this is a pretty simple tutorial, so I'm not going to get into that sort of color stuff. Once that roof is in, we just need our walls. And this is going to be really simple because we're not adding any depth to these. I'm going to break some of these kind of blocks that are in my way here, and I'm just going to very, very simply fill this in. No depth in this wall. You can add some depth if you want, but because this is such a small building, if you choose to do that, you won't end up with a very large interior. Actually, you'll end up with exactly 1 block of interior, which is not enough for most people, but if it is for you, then that is perfectly fine. There we have it. This is looking so much better already, but I think we need a few more things before it's complete. For example, I'd like to add a little crane coming out of this to make it more like a little work area. So I'm just gonna bring that out and maybe do like a little opening right here for someone to be working around this area. And I'll grab some of my fence to put along there as well. There we go. Now I'm going to use the grindstone right on the end of this oak, just like so, and grab some dark oak fence because the dark oak matches the grindstone the best in my opinion. I'm gonna drag this down a few blocks and grab some dark oak trapdoors. I'm gonna use these to make it look like a little lift that is lifting some hay. And there we go. I think that adds a really nice touch to this area. And I think I would end up adding my door to this building back here. It's a little bit easier of an entrance, or maybe even to the main windmill. Now, it's time to figure out my windows. I definitely need some more windows around here. Let's punch those in a few places. I'm going to be curving some little window sills in like that. I think that adds a very nice, simple detail to these windows. Also, right here, we can add a few window sills. And we'll have to fill these in with the full blocks of glass. Full blocks of glass just make it a lot easier when you're working on a diagonal. I definitely would like to add some to the main windmill as well, maybe right about here, and we'll do that same sort of trapdoor look. And let's do it in a couple of other spots. There we go. I've pretty much just spread some windows out sort of wherever I want them. But looking at this, I can say that I would like some more details in here. I'm going to actually break this half block that's showing through here, and I'm going to replace it with some note blocks. Just all the way around this edge. Soul sand is also a good alternative here. Then I'm going to come along with my trapdoors and just add another little layer of detail right here. Yeah, I really like that. I think that makes a really big difference to the transition. Now, speaking of transitions, we currently have no way to enter still, and I think adding a nice cobblestone walkway coming up to a door that's maybe right about here would be awesome. So let's grab some cobblestone, and of course, my spruce door. There we are. So I'm just going to start the cobblestone right about here and work it up with some slabs. This may take a few practice runs to get this curving exactly the way you want it, but fool around with it until you get the look that you're wanting. This right here looks like a pretty good curve. So we've got 3 at the bottom, and then 3 on the next one, and then 3 again with 1 out from the center. Then a 2, and just some 3s coming up from that. Sorry if that's a little bit confusing, but it's pretty basic, just jutting straight out on each side with some like staircasing in the middle. I think you guys will be able to figure it out. I have faith. Now, all we're going to do is connect this up with some more slabs or full blocks if you had those on you to just fill this entire thing in. We're also going to want to connect this fence all the way to that pillar in there so that makes a little bit more sense now. I'm going to even add a wall block right there to the corner, and we can probably put a little lantern or maybe even a flower pot on top of that, just as a little extra detail as you're coming up the path. Yes, I love that! As one more little added detail, I'm going to go along the base of this kind of middle structure with some polished granite, just to again add a little bit of a foundation to that, a little bit of interest right at the base, and it matches the other foundations really well. Alright, at this point, the rest of the details are pretty much entirely up to you. I can't really tell you what to do with your windmill. You've kind of got to decide that for yourself and detail it how you want it. I'm personally loving putting a lot of bushes around the area, draping them off the roof like this. Oh, it'll do wonders. Anyways, everyone, that is all from me. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and learned something from it. If you like my windmill or decide to replicate the design, definitely show me. Tweet it at me on Twitter at GeminiTayMC, or leave it in my Discord server, which I will leave down in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye!